Howdy, good morning, and welcome to RED-C Roundup. I'm your host, Judy Comeaux. Always have a story to tell. Came in on two wheels. I barely made it. I'm making these guys very nervous getting here for our 11 o'clock show, but we made it. And my guest today is my little cousin, Kathy Polzer. How are you doing, Kathy?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here.
Great. It's interesting. I was thinking on the way here when I took the wrong turn and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, I've known her. Well, I guess I've known her your whole life since I'm older than you. But we probably have never shared a meal together or been together long enough to really dig a little bit deeper. So we're going to get to know each other a little bit better in different ways. But welcome to the show. Thank
you so much.
Good. I invited Kathy to be here because your sister Monica guided us to walk with you virtually during your summer trip to
the Camino de Santiago in Spain.
Yes. So tell our listeners just a little bit about who you are and the however many years it took you to be called to this journey and how it all played out, what you thought it was going to be, what it turned out to be, anything like that. So,
well, my name is Kathy Polzer. I've lived in this area my whole life. Grew up in the Brazos Bottom, went to school in Caldwell, and of course went to Texas A&M University. And then I've been a teacher for 30 years. And I think it was about 4 years ago that I was hearing more about the Camino and, found out that it had been a pilgrimage for 1,000 years. When it was in Europe, when it was not safe for pilgrims to go to the Holy Land, they could travel to the church where St. James was buried, and that was their pilgrimage. And so I was interested in that. I said something to my cousin, Michelle, who is 6 months younger than me, and we said, hey, let's do that for our 50th birthdays. And so that, so we were kind of just thinking about that in the background. And then I guess 2 years ago or so, we decided, let's just wait another year because she had a child graduating from high school, and I thought I was going to be retiring from teaching. And so we just decided to push it. So I was going to teach summer school one more year. So we decided to push it forward to this year and really started planning. She had a friend, Laura, who had completed the pilgrimage in 2 years. So she went with her family and they did two weeks and then went back home and then came back the next year and did another 2 weeks. So Laura came, she gave us all kinds of great information, and she said, hey, can I jump in on this too? So it was nice that I didn't have to start alone. Michelle and Laura both had other things that they needed to do, and they, were not going to be able to complete it, but they said, we've got to go home for this. We have this long. And I'm like, well, there's nothing that I really have to do. I mean, there's no reason why I can't stay and see if I can complete almost 500 miles to get to Santiago.
Right. So this pilgrimage is familiar to me. I know a couple of people who have done the pilgrimage, and I always hesitate a little bit to say, oh, and I watched the movie The Way, because then someone will tell me that how heretical something can be. And I thought it was great. But anyways, let's talk just a little bit about the pilgrimage, the route, and I wouldn't think you just thought it up for no reason. I think I want to go walk 500 miles, that there was a calling and a spirituality perhaps that came with that. Would that?
I think that undisturbed time, that time alone to walk, I had the opportunity 10 years ago or so to walk, to hike the Grand Canyon. And at first I was not wanting to walk by myself. And then I looked around and thought, this is amazing and beautiful and peaceful. And, I could sing, I could pray. It was really, I really, really enjoyed that. So I thought, well, this is much longer than that. Mm-hmm. But I was looking for that undisturbed time. And there are many routes, and there's not just one pilgrimage. There's I did the Francés, which is generally the longest one. There's the Camino del Norte, and there's the Camino Primitivo, and there's the Portuguese, and so there's a number of others. But we wanted to do the Francés, and so we made our way to Saint Jean Pied de Port in France, and started our walk over the Pyrenees mountains, and it was absolutely amazing and oh so beautiful. Other things with the spirituality, I just kind of felt as I was preparing, I don't know exactly, I didn't do a lot of preparation spiritually, but, I was certainly asking for his blessing in this, and I just felt him, put Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati was my patron saint for this. He, loved a sense of adventure and loved, to the heights. And so I was asking for his intercession there, pray for us. And then I just felt as I was packing and repacking and deciding what, I need to take, because everything was in that backpack. And I knew I had to carry it. I knew I had to carry it every day. And so as I was doing that and trying to see, should I bring 2 pairs of shoes, and and then I just, heard, remember the lilies of the field. I just felt like, okay, I'm going to take care of you. There's a common phrase, the Camino provides.
Oh,
and so
sounds like a catchphrase to me, but
but it's the people that you meet and the experiences that you have. It's a beautiful experience. But
that's amazing. It was hard for me to wrap my brain around it. I don't like to eat lunch by myself, much less have this long extended. That used to be my personality, and I have to say, 4 years ago with COVID and isolation and those kind of things, I got a little more used to just me. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So it intrigues me because it's not my natural comfort is to be doing something alone for that extended amount of time. So did you plan that take you like a full year to really, or how long did it take you to really say, okay, here's when we need to go? And is there a better time of the year to be on the Camino? Or,
well, for a teacher,
I assume that's why
right after school ended. That's the way that, that was what I chose, because that's when I was available, and I knew I couldn't, do it at any other time. And I did, there were days that I walked alone, but on the Camino, you're really never alone. One of the beautiful parts of the Camino is meeting so many amazing people from all over the world. And on the first day, because we were walking over the Pyrenees mountains, and we knew it was going to be strenuous. And here in Texas, things are flat. And so I had done some walking of long distance to prepare, but I had not, was not prepared for the mountains. And so we stopped at Orison for that first night, and we had to book that in advance because they only have a certain amount of space, and there is nothing else besides that one. Albergue is the name of the hostels. That's what they normally use to describe them. So when we went to that, so we got there on the first day. It was not very many miles, but it was uphill for sure. And so we got there, and then they have a dinner, because, you can't just go to a restaurant, and particularly there's nothing else. So they provide a pilgrim dinner, and so it was all together at the same time. And at the end, our host had everybody stand up and introduce themselves and say where they were from, and say, why they were walking the Camino. Mm-hmm. And that was such an amazing moment. It was so bonding initially. And for days you'd say, oh, we were at Orasan together. You're Eva from Australia, and so we recognized each other, and that was an immediate opportunity of bonding to just to be able to start a conversation. And so there are people that you would see at the beginning, and then you wouldn't see for maybe a week, and then they would pop back up again. And but even in some of those small moments, there, Belinda from India, I only saw her on one day, but I mean, it was such a beautiful encounter. Those are some really holy moments, as Matthew Kelly would say.
Yes, he does.
So those, there were always, pilgrims nearby, even if you weren't necessarily walking. I'm a slow walker. So I'd start early in the morning, and then people would gradually pass me by, and I'd get to visit with them as they were coming by. But you never really felt alone because particularly the Frances is a really busy pilgrimage, and there are many, many people who are walking it at any one time.
So that you have to leave at a certain time. They're expecting you to be there that night. You said you had to make plans ahead of time?
For some of them, particularly at the beginning and then at the end, because at the last 100 kilometers is a very busy part of the pilgrimage, because many people just walk that last 100 to earn their Compostela, which is their certificate for having completed it. So I booked, we booked at the beginning, particularly because there were 3 of us. And then during the middle, I didn't really book very often. I may look, booking.com is very common. They use that a lot there. And so I may find something and book a place, or I may just walk up and say, hey, do you have a bed? And thankfully, now it wasn't always the first place I checked, but I didn't have the experience, although I know others who did, have to walk another 5 kilometers or whatever to get to the next town. But I never had to do that. I was able to, to find some other place. The middle part is not as busy. The beginning and the end were more pilgrims there, but in the middle, a lot of people skip the Meseta, which is the plains of Spain. But and some people talk about how ugly the Meseta is, and I just thought, this is absolutely beautiful. And part of it is my farmer's daughter mentality. I would look at these fields of wheat on this side and the fields of barley on the other side, and I thought it was gorgeous. So I'm so glad that I was able to complete the whole thing. I didn't have to skip any sections.
Awesome. Well, and it's like, what if you run out of water? I mean, it's not desolate.
Right.
Or is it? I guess
there are many places. The Pyrenees Mountains is kind of unique in that there's not a whole lot of there's not a lot of restaurants or anything around. But people are enterprising, and so there's one place where it's kind of a long distance between when you leave Orasan, the next place that you arrive is Roncesvalles, and so that's kind of a distance. And there's not a whole lot of other things. So an enterprising man brought his food truck and parked there in the mountains about halfway and sells, fruit and drinks and hard-boiled eggs and bocadillos, which are the common sandwiches that they make there. And so he had quite a thriving business. It was a great place to stop and take a rest and get something to eat. So, but as far as water, generally, water is easily accessible. There are many towns that have fountains, and they'll put a sign on it that says, this water's treated, it's safe to drink, or water is not potable, not safe to drink. And so there's fountains in a number of different towns. There's many places along the way. There are lots of they're called bar restaurants, because you're going to a bar at 8:00 in the morning. Well, I mean, they're common restaurants, and they sell breakfast and things like that. So we would stop there generally for breakfast, and they almost always, if you just say, would you please refill my water bottle? They had no problem doing that.
Awesome. Yeah,
So
well, I mean,
I didn't want to carry a lot of water because water is heavy.
A gallon of liquid weighs 8 pounds. I learned that in the Walk for Life water thing. And give me 2 of those, 1 lap, and I'm here. I need to trade this in for a water bottle, but because it's heavy.
Yes. So I wanted to carry enough water that I needed, but not so much that it would weigh me down unnecessarily.
And so your cousin Monica, you said? Monica?
Michelle.
Michelle. I knew it was an M. So y'all had this plan and y'all walked for a week together? Or?
So yes. So we arrived, we flew into Barcelona and kind of got over the jet lag and then made our way to Saint Jean Pied de Port. And then she walked all the way to Logroño. So it was, I think it was, 7 to 9 days. So that was great to be able to walk together, just to kind of, and that was great, for my sisters who were like wondering if I was going to be okay there by myself and they're a little nervous. My mom was always the one who would be concerned. And the blessing of dementia is that when Patty told her about what I was doing, she said, "What an adventure." I'm like, well, that is so positive. And so
she's
then my sister
such a
said,
delightful lady. I love her so much.
But then my sister said, well, then that worry transferred to us. So they were concerned. So I think it was great that Michelle was able to go with me for those first few days to say, hey, there's a great group of people. She's got, there's Camino friends. There's, it's going to be okay. And then there was some drama at the beginning of the trip with my phone.
Yeah.
There was a little drama there, and I was so thankful to have someone there who, she was wonderful to just say, okay, we're going to, my phone, first it fell out of my pocket in the cab when I was crawling across all the way, to the other door. And then the person who eventually found it did not want to give it back. And anyway, then when the police came and they were looking around, then it just all of a sudden turned off. But that was good. It was good to know that it was gone. And my phone was not a new one and the battery would overheat sometimes. So Michelle said, hey, this is just God telling you needed a new phone. That one wasn't going to last anyway. So it would, but getting me all my contacts, at least for my family members, because as some of my friends that I had set up a way of communicating with them, some of them were worried. They were like, we haven't heard anything from her.
My contacts disappeared about a month ago out of my phone, and it is just like, what do I do? I don't have a 12-year-old around me to
teach you how to use
for me. If you're to our listeners, if you're just joining us, my conversation is with Kathy Polzer, and she's sharing her experience on the Camino, her pilgrimage on the Camino. Kathy, I wonder, people decide to do pilgrimages for so many different reasons. And I mean, because we're Catholic and we hear things with our Catholic ears and everything, that I would think that it's usually a spiritual or a spirituality combined with their pilgrimage. But did you encounter different mindsets along that way?
With the other people who were walking?
Uh-huh.
There's a variety of different people who were choosing to walk the Camino de Santiago at the same time. For some people, it's just a physical challenge. And for some people, it was, just a time for them to kind of meditate or think. Some people walked it with others, with family members and things. So I think they were maybe expecting some sort of bonding experience with them. And then there were those, and some people had some spiritual reasons that they may not have been willing to share or but there were also, many places offered a pilgrim mass. It wasn't available every night, but I would always ask when I checked into an albergue, is there a pilgrim mass here? And if it was available, then, I made it. I tried to make it there. And so you could recognize, it was fun to see who your mass buddies were, who your pilgrims who, were interested in attending those pilgrim masses and being there for daily mass if possible. And then once you recognize them, oh, okay, so they're they want to make sure they get to Mass too. Then that way, when you arrived in a town, then you would say, hey, by the way, there's a 7:00 Mass right down the street, or,
Cool.
so that way, and one time the Mass was later and I was really tired, and, Anastasio from Brazil was like, there's a Mass. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make it. He said, yes, let's all go together. Come on. And so we all made it. And so I'm like, I was really glad he was encouraging me. But it was fun to find your Mass group, your group of Catholics who were, seeking to hear God there. And the time walking was such a beautiful spiritual time. It was, like I said, you will not hear me singing on the radio, but
Okay.
when I was out there by myself, I was singing, songs that just are so special to me, that my family or just individually, but to be able to just sing and praise God. And I had a really amazing moment towards the end of the Camino where I thought I was alone and I really wasn't. And I was singing How Great Thou Art. And I just think that is a song that my family has sung together from as far back as I can remember. And so I know all 4 verses, and I just was, every day I would sing that song, and it was just so meaningful to be able to, and the verse, where you talk about the mountains and the birds singing and hear the brook, and I was living that out. I'm like, Lord, this is so beautiful.
Oh, that's so amazing.
It was.
The song itself, it's the whole story of salvation.
It is.
Right, encapsulated it. But when Deacon Bill and Patricia had their St. Joseph altar, I led the music and out on their patio. And when you're singing and hear the birds and can hear the birds, how powerful that can be. And they're, as a pastoral musician, when someone requests that song, I say, I'll sing it. But if we're not singing all 4, we've got to sing.
It's incomplete.
And I've had this conversation with Patty, I think, before, laughing about it, how we get so, I think my thoughts are normal. There's nothing normal about it usually, but I
was very intent, particularly for my dad's funeral, that we were going to sing all 4 verses. And we were not going to be moved from that pew until we had sung. That last verse is so powerful. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation to take me home, what joy shall fill my heart. And I never really paid attention to that verse until my sister passed away. And I could see her singing that verse. And so then that has been at first, the nature verse was what appealed to me as a young person. I thought, oh, that's just the mountains. Oh, that's so beautiful. But the last verse is my favorite.
Oh my goodness! As you were talking about your dad and Teresa, and that, what a blessing we had growing up at San Salvador, a little mission church between Bryan and Caldwell. That was our home, and just to, I can remember us singing together. Your dad always he would be the lector and sing and everything. And it's what community and family, and it's what the body of Christ is. And when you're blessed enough to experience a slice of that throughout our childhood, and then, I moved away for quite a long time, but when I came home, wouldn't miss it. And
it was a beautiful way to grow up.
It was. Still is, actually. Yes. Now that my kids are living there, my grandkids are growing up, same backyard. It's really very cool. So would you say, leading up to the very end of it, I just want to make sure we have enough time to get to the end. Okay. Challenges along the way, or like I went to Italy for 2 weeks, and it was planned out every day. We had this, and this, very little downtime and lots of walking and packing and all of that. But it's like, you know what? I could kind of use a washateria, those kind of things. So I think some of the practical things that you probably had to do, that doesn't mean you don't trust in the good Lord, but like Monsignor McCaffrey says, trust in the Lord, but like your car anyway. So you you had to have a bit of a plan.
So I guess I really, it appealed to me, the idea of not booking in advance, of having the freedom to just kind of walk up and say, do you have a bed? So I did try and do that often, but I am an early bird, and I wanted to get up and I wanted to be, start walking at 6 a.m. I know that I'm not a fast walker, and that didn't bother me, but I wanted to get an early start because we had a couple of times when it was really hot in the late afternoon from 3 to 5, and I did not want to do that again. It was just really, somebody said, "Oh, you're from Texas, you should be used to the heat." Yes, but we don't walk 18 miles in it. We stay in the air conditioning. So I like to be up early and start walking. And, if I walk, 10 kilometers or 6 miles or wherever I saw that there was a little place open for breakfast, then I would stop and get tortilla, which is not what we think of tortilla here, but it's kind of like an egg and potato frittata. And it was the very common breakfast item that was offered, and so good, protein, and then some carbs, some potatoes to help you, get your walk in. And so I'd get my breakfast and refill my water bottle and then keep going. And if it was a long day, generally I walked between 12 and 18 miles a day. If it was a short day, then normally that was probably my only stop. If it was a long day, then I may stop, second breakfast in Hobbit style, but just to, because if it was going to be 3 or 4 more hours, I just would order a croissant or something so that way I could ask them to refill my water bottle and go to the restroom and just all those little necessities, things that I needed. But generally, if it was a short day, I would just take the one break and then keep walking till I got there. And depending upon the mileage, it was anywhere from, I guess I think 11:30 was the earliest that I arrived in what was my destination, and then I think the latest was 3:15 when it was a really long day. And then I was the shower normally is number one once you check in somewhere, and then and laundry, because to give your laundry enough time to dry on the line, that's normally something because you didn't take a lot of clothing, so some people just said 2 of everything, but I found that 3 short sleeve T-shirts and 3 pairs of underwear were necessities because that way you didn't have to do it every single day.
Gotcha.
Just to give you one day if we were in Burgos and wanted to see the cathedral, and if we, some towns were small and didn't have a lot of sightseeing of opportunities, and other towns had, you could walk around and see some beautiful sights there. Some of the churches are so amazing and so old. Nothing that we have in the U.S. is as old as that. Built in the 1200s. My brain can't really comprehend that history. So I would, take some time to go and see what there was in the town. Update my family when I got to Wi-Fi about where that I'd walked and I'd completed that day. Definitely finding something to eat was high on the list, and often they'll have pilgrim meals where they have a first course, which is like a soup or a salad, sometimes lentils, or sometimes they'd have some sort of specialty item, and then the second course was whatever chicken or pork or fish or whatever they had, with French fries, always with French fries.
Really?
I will not be eating any French fries for quite some time. I ate them then because I needed the carbs, but that was a lot of potatoes. So French fries came with every single meal. So find something to eat, and then they had a dessert with that too in the pilgrim meal. Sometimes it was just a cup of yogurt, or sometimes it was something more, and you could choose red wine or water. Same price.
Oh.
And yes. And
I'll have both.
And then bread. Yeah, bread. So, the pilgrim meal was very filling. So once I had finished with that, then I was done for the day. But if there was a pilgrim mass, normally it was like between 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. But it didn't get dark there until 10:30. So
So
the
these
days were
people
long.
that host, that's their way of life.
Some of
Day in
those
and day
towns-
out is receiving, that's their way of life, is to provide for the pilgrims.
Many of those towns would not exist. They are so small and have such a small number of permanent people there, but they only exist because of the Camino, because of the pilgrims that are coming through. So,
And there, I remember talking with Deacon Dave Mays when he made this pilgrimage.
he was an inspiration.
Yes.
Spoke with him several times about it.
But I think, like, say, I really can't walk today. There's options to ride a bus or get a taxi, or is that right?
Yes. So those are options. I did not want to do that. And I did get to the point. People were saying, "Oh, are you going to take a break? Are you going to take a break?" What would I do all day long if I'm not walking? I felt good and I just wanted to continue. But when I needed a break, I knew it. So you could taxi, you could bus to different locations if you needed to. If the bus was available, the schedule. I met a woman who had been injured and she was not able to complete her Camino, and she was in kind of a place that there was not easy access, and the taxi would be too high. The bus, she was diagnosed. Her doctor said, "Your Camino is over on a Tuesday." There was one bus a week, and it left on Monday.
Oh.
So it was cheaper for her, she said, to stay for a whole week than to get a taxi to take her to the next town. But,
okay.
But not the next town, the big town where she could find some transportation out of there. But I wanted to walk. And now I did ship my bag on some days. It's for really cheap, 5 or 6 euros. You can send your bag ahead, and then that way you don't have to carry it that day. The first couple of times I did it was for convenience. When I was going into Burgos or going into Lyon, and I knew that I'd get there early because I had arranged to just have a short day so that I would have time to see these beautiful cities, that I didn't want to be carrying my backpack the whole time, and I couldn't check into the albergue until 2. So I just planned, hey, that's totally worth $6 to send that on ahead, and then that way I'm free to see everything that I want to see there in the town. And then, so it was awesome. I walked up and there was my bag.
Yay.
It was great. So some people choose to do that every day, and some people just choose to do particular days. Towards the end, when my body was tired, when I knew that I had some 18 and then 20 plus days, I shipped my bag on some of those days just because I wanted to, I didn't mind. I wanted to walk every step myself.
Got it.
I didn't have to carry my bag every step myself, but I wanted to walk. But I carried my bag most of it, but it was a blessing to not have to every single day.
And if you stay on course and you follow your timing that you had planned or whatever, you knew, okay, I'm going to be at the cathedral tomorrow.
So
or
my plan
next week, or whatever.
I guess when I kind of looked at the calendar and counted it out, the plan was to get to Santiago on July 3rd, and then I needed the rest day, and I had already booked, because that was that end part where it was tough because there were lots more people on the Camino. And so I was trying to decide, what am I going to do? I just feel that I need a day. But I've got all these other plans already. And so the Lord just said, hey, remember the lilies of the field. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be sleeping on the ground. It's going to be okay. You're going to find something. So I just said, okay, just let all those reservations go. And really several of them in the smaller towns where I was able to just transfer them to the next day. I had to completely change my plans for Santiago, and that was okay too. But then in his wisdom, I had said before that my patron saint, I just felt like the patron saint of this trip was Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. And guess when his feast day is? July 4th, the day I ended up, after that delay, the day that I ended up arriving in Santiago.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then, to get to Santiago, you walk into the square and there's the beautiful church. I was there pretty early in the morning. It was pretty quiet. There was really not a whole lot of other people there. So I thought, I've got time to make it to 9:30 Mass, because they have 4 pilgrim masses a day. And one thing that's very unique to the church there is that they have the very large botafumeiro, which is the incenser. They say it's because the pilgrims were so stinky that they wanted to
air out the church.
Use some incense there to make it manageable. They just do it at the end now, and only on certain occasions. That was not one of my really important things about the Camino, was to see the botafumeiro. But at that 9:30 Mass, we had these student groups from Spain. I guess they were like juniors in high school. There would be large groups of, it was a school group or a church group where they would do that last week or a little further on, from Astorga on. There were those student groups. And there was a large student group there, and I think they had made the donation. Their families had made the donation so that they would swing the botafumeiro. And, the Mass was beautiful and amazing. And then when they swing that, it is amazing how high in the air it gets. You think it's going to hit the ceiling of the cathedral. And then that incense just drifting to heaven with our prayers is beautiful. So
for our listeners, just to maybe have a mental picture of what Kathy's talking about, if you go to a Mass and at St. Joseph's 11 o'clock Mass they blow smoke. That's a higher Mass, and the article that holds it, I think it's called the thurible.
Thurible, right.
The person who does it is the thurifer, and it's the thurible. And I think it's called a censure as well. I think there's some different names, but in this particular church, it is giant, huge, and it's attached at the ceilings, and it takes like 8 men to swing it.
They are holding on.
Yeah, you can just go to YouTube and Google it if you want to.
In front of it when it comes down as a pendulum down. You would not want to be in the middle of it because it attains some speed, but it's really beautiful.
It's amazing. Well. It's amazing. Kathy, we have about 4 minutes left that I want to get your thoughts. Was it, I guess along the way you get your card punched, or you
get stamps.
Yeah, okay.
You get stamps as you go along to show that you have completed it. And then again, if you've completed that last 100, then you get your, it's like a certificate that just shows that you have completed the Camino.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone who's contemplating going at some point in time? Food for thought.
I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's just that time, that beautiful time. And there were so many times when I was looking around and just thinking, Lord, this is so beautiful. It was so amazing. I'd never been to Europe before. This was my first trip, and to be able to just have that quiet time, that walking is. I had an amazement of my body. I would say, feet, you did it again. You made it.
I say that sometimes, when you're just so, to me, the day of the spaghetti dinner at St. Anthony's, your feet feel like cinder blocks. And I just, I've got to go home. And then you wake up the next day and it's like, Lord, you are so... Yes, you created us to bounce back.
Our bodies
sometimes.
Are amazing, and I was kind of given a thorn in the flesh before I left. I was training, and I trained with some wrong. I realized I cannot wear those shoes, and so I got plantar fasciitis.
No,
and so my concern as I started, I didn't know if I was going to be able to finish this. And so I was just telling people, okay, please pray that I enjoy the journey and not the destination, because I didn't want to focus on Santiago, and if I didn't get to make that. So that was beautiful. And that prayer was answered because, each day I was just so proud and just excited and had so many beautiful experiences with lovely people throughout those days. And again, just seeing his amazing creation, and then to see the work that the church has done for hundreds of years to see some of these beautiful churches and cathedrals. It just a sense of history. It on all levels do it. It's an indescribable, amazing experience, and I'm just so blessed to have had the opportunity. And thanks to my family and friends who made that possible for me by continuing on with everything here, and encouraged me, and and prayed for me.
Well, and
prayed
those
for
of
me.
us who you were praying for us and
Yes.
taking our intentions along the way. Could you say in 1 minute how your relationship with the Lord increased, changed, tweaked a little, or?
Well, I'm nearing a phase of life where there will be some changes, and that was kind of a part of my Camino as well. And that didn't matter anymore. Those changes, it's going to be okay.
Isn't that awesome?
It became just a walk of thanksgiving. Thank you for what you've done in my life. Thank you for the opportunity to do this. It just became a walk of thanksgiving, and I was just blessed to be able to participate in that.
That's beautiful. As you said, when we get out of the way, God is so coordinated. Well, tomorrow is the Feast of St. James. I don't know if you knew that
I
or
know
not,
someone
but-
who's getting ready to arrive in Santiago.
Right.
tomorrow.
So just a little, as we close out this time together, St. James the Apostle is also known as James the Greater. He was one of Christ's 12 disciples. He is a member of Jesus's inner circle. So we continue to ask the intercession of St. James on all of our lives. Thank you, Kathy, for being here. God
Thank you.
bless.
Thanks for having me.
Glory be to the